Hey guys, this is Corey Allen with the Overton Report. I'm joined here by Tyler Bessenger, the contemporary conservative, and we kind of just wanted to go through and talk about what happened this past weekend. There's a lot going on in there.
There's way too much going on that shouldn't be going on, yeah, for sure.
I agree.
For sure.
Well, first I want to touch on this event that you put on in Charleston. What was it for? What was it like?
So essentially it was to give a venue or a voice to people in the city that I know are completely fed up with what's going on with our feckless, ballless city council and our absolute traitor of a mayor. I got really disgruntled because I felt like there was a lot of people with this opinion. We know there are a lot of people with this opinion. Over 10,000 people have signed a petition subscribing to that opinion, but no one was, taking it to the streets or really putting that message out there. So I felt like it was really important with all that's going on across the country to let conservatives know that there is that momentum in the other direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like there's a growing movement of people who, up until this point, have been kind of just comfortable or hoping that it would go away. And the more we see, especially this year, the more it's becoming clear, it seems that it's not going anywhere.
Well, that's really, in my opinion, where conservatives have been for the last several decades even. Well, we give them this, we give them that. We've been operating under the principle of appeasement, and just like it did Europe in the 30s, it's gotten us absolutely nowhere but backwards. Mm-hmm. And now we're on that precipice where if we don't stand up here at the last minute, we're going to, nice our way into oblivion.
That's a good point, I think. What are some of the focal points of the document that was presented there that everybody had signed?
More or less, the whole thing, as far as the hypocrisy of the city council goes, they all purport to be Democrats, but all of their policies are planting knives in the backs of their own constituents. The minority groups and the groups that support these parties are time and again finding themselves stabbed in the back and not realizing it. Yeah. Because these parties don't put emphasis on their policies. They put emphasis on the feel-good words, and then they stab you in the back with taxes that are going to affect our old people, our minority communities, our poor people, who are the alleged constituents of the Democratic Party. Right. They talk about being pro-gay. We've seen 3 gay bars close in Charleston. One of them is now at Democratic headquarters. So, I mean, these parties and the Democrats and these liberals say one thing and do the exact opposite, but because they flower us with words and rub us on the head and tell us we're pretty, we keep voting for them.
It's true. It is. I'm sure it's very frustrating. So as far as this rally goes, so it was mainly about city politics, right?
Right.
A little bit of, it's hard to escape the things that are going on nationally, right? It does seem like it's more of a continuation of that. Like, there's a bunch of shady stuff going on nationally. We also need to focus on some things happening in our cities, in our communities. A story just came out about a Chinese spy who went to college in the Bay Area and used her position as leader of a bunch of different organizations in school, slept with some mayors, and was involved in a bunch of city, and these were Midwestern mayors, a bunch of city politicians, and was gathering intel for the Chinese. So, like, that alone shows you, like, city politics are very important.
Oh, sure. I mean, you said at the event on Saturday, you'll get further with 1,000 people at City Hall than you will 10,000 at the U.S. Capitol. Yeah. And that's a big problem that's gotten us where we are now, is there's so much focus on national politics, and it has been for years, that we have let the city politics and county politics and state politics in a lot of places get out from under us, to where conservatives are now surprised that they're in almost blue states.
Yes. That's true, and I think a lot more people are starting to see it. What was the turnout like? What was the attitude and atmosphere like on Saturday?
We had probably about 150 people show up, and the atmosphere, as far as we were concerned, was great. I thought it was fantastic. It was really inspiring to give people in the city that opportunity to see that there are other people that see same things they see, and want to have the same changes that they want to have, without feeling like they're in this social media bubble where they feel this way and nobody else does.
Right.
So I feel like it's really important to give people that opportunity over and over again, and I encourage everybody to come out. Like, if you're in the same situation we are mentally, you're tired of these things, sitting at home is what's gotten us here in the first place.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. So there was a counter protest planned, right, by a couple of leftist groups, or what was the
Oh God, I believe their flyer, their brochure had several groups on there: Black Lives Matter, Stand as One, the People's Army, which is a communist paramilitary group. Yeah, they were planning a soup drive, which was done with a huge nod to the soup drive that was held in Denver,
Right.
where they threw soup at people and one individual, I believe, was killed.
That's, yeah. Oh, yeah, and if we go back to look at the poster, it was actually soup cans flying
Through
in
the air, yeah, towards the custom house.
With the customs house.
Yeah, and
behind
several
it.
of their remarks on this post included, "We're going to give the fascists some soup," but then they go on local media claiming that they're collecting soup for the homeless. I didn't get any soup. I didn't see any homeless people getting any soup either.
That's true. I read that in one of the news channels, the local Legacy Media's reports, that they had collected soup for the homeless. But it was
and I believe at one point the soup was confiscated from them by the police.
Yeah, I
because
saw that.
they had brought it already to the rally in these sleeves, like they were going to chuck it.
Right, like it's like, oh man. So that's interesting. And so where the main controversy, I think, is coming from in a lot of people's minds is that this group of Proud Boys was there to protect us. Can you tell us what you think the reason for the Proud Boys feeling like they needed to show up there was?
Sure. I mean, you can just go on Google and type in Antifa or BLM and see plenty of examples. There have been repeated cases all across the country, even in this city, where we've seen BLM, Antifa, organizations like those take to the streets, harass people, assault people, threaten people, even kill people, and police have either refused or failed to do anything about it. So when you have that vacuum, I hear the left complain a lot about wanting to defund police, get rid of police. Okay, that's fine if you want to do that, but expect there to be groups like the Proud Boys and militias that fill that gap. Because just defunding the police doesn't mean your ass takes over the streets. There's other people out there with other opinions too.
Yeah, and that's true. It does always seem like it's to fund the police so that they themselves can police the streets in a political nature.
Exactly.
And, when one group pushes to that extreme, it almost seems like it's inevitable.
It is inevitable.
For
every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been hearing a lot about the Proud Boys as far as these local media that are owned by companies in New York, Pennsylvania, California, but tell you they're local. Talking about this group as a white supremacist group, neo-fascist, homophobic. Yeah. What do you say to that? I mean, what do you say to that?
I say that the left has done themselves, a great injustice by watering down those words. They have used those words to describe everything. Yeah. Everything from Donald Trump to, politicians who support him, to Brexit, to people like Brandon Strike, who's a gay man. And now they're sticking to the Proud Boys. Anytime there's any opposition to the left, they tack it as racist, fascist, homophobic, neo-Nazi. That's just the label that goes on it.
Whatever fits.
And it doesn't fit, especially with the Proud Boys, what I'm finding out, because you just had, when I was inducted on Saturday, a brown man inducting a gay man into this racist, homophobic organization. It makes no sense. It's not true. It's an easy, low-hanging fruit for the left to grab onto, and they grab it like a nutsack every time because they can say, oh, racist, homophobic, just red stamp it. And those days are done, man.
I think that you're right. It does an extreme disservice to the terms that, I mean, because there are real white supremacists out there.
Sure.
There are real racists out there, and they need to be marked. But if you just sit there and just throw it at every single conservative person or somebody who doesn't agree and is vocal about that disagreement, then it waters it down.
I think that's their agenda, in a way. I think that's their agenda because you notice they have these similar falling outs on their own side, and it's okay when they do it.
Right.
Like look at the way they treated Mr. Washington on Saturday. Black reporter comes up recording.
Get the fuck out of here. Fucking coon. Wanna be black man. Go be over there with the white people like you want to be, right?
And it's okay when the left does it. But if a conservative does it to a black liberal, first of all, they wouldn't because we don't behave that way.
Yeah.
But if they did, they would be crucified.
Yeah.
It's their cognitive dissonance is mind-numbing, and their inability to be consistent is what makes them so irrelevant.
You know, that's funny that you say it, because I have been called a racist and a white supremacist specifically in reference to talking about white leftists.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I've been
works
called
the other way around.
I've been called a homophobic, xenophobic, anti-Semite, and I'm a gay man married to a half-Jewish immigrant.
It's true. That's true. And yeah, this is it's interesting the way that the news picked it up. So, you know, I don't know how you feel about this, but if we want to, there's some talk going on surrounding what happened after the event. So there were no issues with the event. There was there's no
Not a
ticket,
problem.
right?
No
like
ticket.
there's no
No violations, no destruction of property, no formal complaints, nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Not a thing. The march took place all the way from the Customs House to City Hall and back.
Mm-hmm.
Up Market Street. So that's saying a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, we marched past several businesses that were damaged during the riots, and
That's
they were
right.
perfectly fine that day.
Yeah, they weren't boarded up. They didn't have the doors closed.
No,
Nothing,
they
did
were outside waving, saying hello.
Yeah.
Can't give out their free samples because Tecklenburg's a dick.
That's
But-
true. They can't. So afterwards, a large group, including me, I was there. You were there.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to go to one bar in Somerville that was closed.
Right.
And so, spur of the moment, we decided to go to another establishment that was open. How many people do you think were there?
With our group, I'd say probably between 30 and 50, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there.
When we got to the bar, there was like maybe 2 people there.
I think 2 to 3 people. I think one of them was paying their tab to leave.
Mm-hmm.
How long were we there?
I'd say about an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Yeah. What was that like? Was everybody there Proud Boys or was?
Oh God, no. They were maybe half the group. The other half of the group was regular citizens, black women, Hispanic women, gay people, girlfriends of the Proud Boys, wives of the Proud Boys children were the only children in the place.
That's right. Right.
So yeah, very mixed crowd.
Yeah. So
actually, the table I was sitting at consisted of a Hispanic woman, a black woman, a gay man, and another white woman, and no Proud Boys at the time.
So if you look at the news, they did a brief segment on it last night. Actually, I know you were actually in that segment.
Yes.
They had spoken to you on the phone. It was just a split second. Can you kind of go through what you had said to her? The full thing of what you had said to her, since they didn't play.
Sure. She'd asked me what was the circumstances under which the Proud Boys came to Charleston, and I told her the same thing. You know, we've seen police either refuse or fail to do their jobs.
Right.
We've received physical violence from these groups before.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Black Lives Matter and Antifa go, I do not trust the local police to do their job. So if I have a group who has a reputation of standing up for people and being defensive, like the Proud Boys, offer to come and protect our event,
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. What did they do? They came out, they made sure nothing happened, and they went home. That's what their job is. That's what they offered to do. That's what people should do.
And like you said, there were no complaints.
No complaints.
No complaints. So you told her that, and what else?
She asked about the bar, what the atmosphere was like at the bar, and it was jovial. It was fine.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
real issues. There was a small chant that lasted maybe 5 seconds of "fuck Antifa," started by the women,
Right.
who weren't members of the Proud Boys, clearly.
Mhm.
And I don't believe the women that started that chant have any association with the Proud Boys whatsoever. They're not girlfriends. They're not wives. They were just there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So locals who agreed with the message of "fuck Antifa," come to find out that must have really damaged the sensibilities of one of their bartenders, who we found out is later involved in one way or another with these Antifa groups.
Mm-hmm.
And they called the bar owner, who came up there, because they had been, according to the lady, taken over by
That is
Proud
what they
Boys.
said.
Yeah.
Taken over. So, after a while, there was talk of an initiation, which consists of what?
The initiation?
Yeah, what's the
Taking an
initiation?
oath. It's taking an oath, that's it.
taking.
It's a repeat after me type thing.
It's like a hold your hand up.
Yeah,
Okay. You went through that,
I did.
and you were inducted.
Mhm.
Did they beat you?
No,
Okay.
that's not a thing.
That's not a thing.
That's not a thing. No, I saw on the news where the owner went onto the bar saying that they were about to beat in a new member
Of the gang.
of the gang.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not a gang. Second of all, there's no such thing as beating in new members. That's
Mhm.
not a thing. If that were a thing, I wouldn't have joined, because nobody's going to hit me when I can hit back.
Right.
So, there's no such thing as beating
see.
new people into the Proud Boys.
Wow. And then, I do know, and we'll be talking with somebody later on who saw what had happened to the fence. A quarter-inch board was broken on a fence because a man had trying to leave before any of this.
Right.
Had tried to leave and had put his daughter over and just had climbed over because he didn't want to walk around and down through, and it had broken. And apparently, half a dozen people tried to pay for it. Right.
I saw at least 2 people offer to pay for it.
Yeah, I know that my wife did. She didn't know what happened. None of us did.
I didn't even notice it had happened.
Right, and actually, the owner, according to her, said that it's something that happens. It's happened before. It's not a big deal. It's like $20.
They didn't even mention it in the news report.
They didn't. And I noticed that on the news report there were these claims that they were making, and then there was security footage of the bar, but there was no security footage of the claims they were making.
Yeah, I didn't see anything about anybody getting beat on, or at least not that I saw.
Right.
It just sounded to me like they were grasping at straws because they faced a little bit of pushback for their behavior after the fact.
Right. Yeah, it's a shame. Okay, so what do you say to people who weren't there, didn't see any of this, but are repeating the questionable claims that are being made about this whole situation?
I'd say that anybody who does any research into this particular situation beyond what's being said by the bar owner, who has already implicated herself in plenty of things, look at the people that you're talking about, their history. The Proud Boys have no history of going into places and causing mayhem and being arrested. You see, nobody was arrested. No charges were filed. Nobody was hurt. The biggest complaint that was made is a false statement about someone about to being jumped into the bar. Into the club. That never happened.
Right.
We don't jump people into the club. That's not a thing. So it really just came off like Mr. Antifa guy got his knickers in a twist. Told the bar owners tend to agree with them philosophically, it would seem, or at least play a part in their activism, and now they're just upset because there's a counter narrative to that.
Well, hopefully we can get to the bottom of this, and I know that everyone at that event on Saturday felt safer because it was really the first time that we've done anything and haven't been shouted down and
chased down
drowned
the
out,
streets.
chased down the streets, yeah.
Or punched their windows.
And of course, we have been told specifically by police on camera that they can't protect the citizens if they're there.
Told to leave the city.
Stay away from the protesters down there. They have identified you. They followed you all this way. We don't want a confrontation. So if everyone could leave peacefully, that's all we're asking.
You're letting us know that you can't do anything about them being violent and harassing and following, accosting citizens.
What?
I just needed more bodies. I just needed more people
You
there.
need more police.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for putting on the event, and we really look forward to doing stuff with you all in the future and covering the next thing that you guys do.
There'll be more. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.